Hi, my name is Mike Murray with the Virginia Baseball Club. The purpose of these videos is to help youth baseball coaches identify and correct some common hitting flaws, and we're going to demonstrate some drills we use to correct these flaws. Okay, well, as coaches, our goal is to help our players be very successful in games and not simply be good doing drills. Now, drills have a very useful purpose in helping players feel and understand the correct motion of a swing. But as much as possible, we want to get our players good live batting practice. All right, let's get started. And to get started, I'm going to bring in Chris Bursett, an instructor here at the Virginia Baseball Club. He's former captain at the University of Michigan baseball team, and currently he's a player in the Cincinnati Reds organization. All right, Coach, ready? Okay, the first phase of hitting is the stance and the setup. We want to put our players in a very good position to hit with a sound foundation. Too many times youth hitters put themselves at a disadvantage to hit by not being in a good stance and setup. What we're going to do right now is Chris is going to demonstrate a good stance for you. He's going to start by getting out of the box and getting back in the box. And notice that he'll get in the batter's box always with his back foot first. We're going to start with the feet and work our way up. Notice that his feet are wider than his shoulders. He has his toes pointed forward. His knees are bent. He has some flexion in the hips. He's in a very good athletic position. We want to make sure we get our youth players with a very, very good base. Everything in sports starts with a good base. Working our way up, notice that he has his elbows below his hands. He has his door knocking knuckles lined up, and he can check that by pointing his index fingers up. Very good. And real important, he has both eyes pointed towards the pitcher. He has his hands about shoulder width, height at the top of the strike zone, and he has his bat at a 45-degree angle. Okay, a common flaw that we see with young hitters is not getting set up in the batter's box properly. And again, we talked about it starts with the feet. Like most big league hitters, Chris is going to get into the batter's box, his back foot first, and then his front foot. The big flaw that we see is duck feet, where the youth players will have their feet ducked out. So to correct this, Chris will step back out, and this is a drill we do with our players. We have them get into the batter's box, back foot first, and then front foot, and then he has some movement. We have our players act like big leaguers just to get them in a good position to hit. Okay, one way to teach our players as a team to get into the batter's box is you line your players up along the foul line. So you have all your players lined up, and you as the coach are giving them directions. Everybody step out of the batter's box. Okay, everybody step into the batter's box, back foot first, front foot, and you have some motion, okay? And then we repeat that over and over again, maybe 5 minutes with your players, getting in and getting out of the batter's box to put them in a good position to hit. Another flaw that we see a lot of times with the stance and setup with young players is just a generally overall poor setup. So one of the drills we do is called the check drill. The coach, me, will act like the airplane pilot, and the hitter is my assistant pilot. I'm going to say check. For example, I'm going to say check your feet, and Chris will respond check. Okay, this is how it works. Okay, let's get in our setup. Okay, and it simply works this way. Okay, you ready? Okay, feet wider than your shoulders.
Check.
Toes pointed forward.
Check.
Knees bent.
Check.
Elbows below your hands.
Check.
Door knocking knuckles lined up.
Check.
Bat at a 45-degree angle.
Check.
All right, and swing. Okay, good. In the prior clip, we talked about putting our players in a good foundation with a good stance and setup. Now we're going to talk about our load and a stride to a power position. Well, the load motion is a shifting of the weight about 60% to our back leg. And this is as if we are delivering a punch. We're getting ready to deliver a punch. There are generally 3 types of loads that different players use. One is like Derek Jeter uses, which is just a sitting motion as the pitcher goes. He sits a little bit. Let's show that again. Okay, so it's just a sitting as he gets his weight back here on his back leg. The second type is a front leg lift. This is similar to what Ryan Zimmerman of the Washington National uses, and it looks like this. So he picks up that front leg, show it again, to get his weight back before he strides. And the last type is one that Chris Bursett here uses, and that is going knee to knee. He brings his front knee back to his back knee, to load his weight back before he goes forward. Just before the pitcher releases the ball, the batter's going to get his weight back to his back leg about 60%. And as he does this, he's going to turn in his front shoulder slightly and let his hands go back. And this is what, now most hitters, youth hitters, will do this naturally, and you might not have to coach this point. But this is what it should look like, okay? So as the weight goes back, the front shoulder is going to turn in slightly and the hands go back. So as the pitcher is just getting ready to release the ball, he shifts his weight back and the front shoulder turns in slightly, pushing the hands back. And this puts him in a good power position to hit. Okay, one common flaw we see with youth hitters is no front shoulder turn in as the pitcher is going to release the ball. So we need to load our hands and we need to get a little bit of an inward turn with our front shoulder. This drill here is called the front shoulder drill. The batter puts his bat on his front shoulder with his normal grip. And simply he's going to load his hands and then hit the ball off the tee. This is what it looks like. Okay, again, a common flaw is to not get any type of upper body rotation, and this drill right here is called walking into the tee, and it is going to help the players understand how to turn their front shoulder to hit through the baseball. This is what it is. Okay, immediately following the weight shift back, the player is going to stride to a power position, and he wants this to be a smooth stride to a balanced position. As his foot goes forward with the lower body, he strides forward, his hands will move back at the same time. This happens at the same time. Front foot moves forward and the hands move back. Okay? A common flaw we see with the stride is a very hard stride or a lunging motion with youth players. Generally, this is what we see. They have a narrow stance, and as the pitcher goes to throw, his weight is all towards his front side, and that's not a good power hitting position. So what we want to do to correct that is we bring in the tee, and I'm going to clap once, and Chris is going to stride to a balanced power position, and then I'll clap again and he'll hit it. This is what it looks like. Okay, another common flaw we see with the stride is the player stepping in the bucket or stepping away from the plate. This is what we'll see a lot of times with youth hitters. And so what we want to do, of course, that's not a good hitting position. We'll put down a line. Something that a coach can do on the field is simply to draw a line in the dirt, and we have the player stride on the line. Okay, another drill that we use to help players avoid stepping in the bucket is simply by a front toss, and I'm going to front toss it to the outside part of the plate. For him to hit this ball, he won't be able to step in the bucket. He has to step right at me. This is how you do it. Okay. Okay, now we're going to talk about the swing approach. So far we've talked about putting our players in a good position to hit, and then we've talked about a load and a stride. Now we're going to talk about the swing. A good way to describe the swing path is short to and then long through. Okay, and what I mean by short to and long through for the swing path is this action right here. Is that as Chris starts his swing, the bat is going to be short where the hands are coming straight down. This is the short to the strike zone, and then he's going to be long through the strike zone. A couple of points of emphasis here with the upper body is that he keeps his hands high as he pulls them in and his front arm stays bent. One other thing, which is a good teaching point, moving back a little bit, is the shaft of the bat is going to stay relatively close to the back shoulder. A big flaw with young players is the shaft moves away from the shoulder. So we want to keep the shaft to the shoulder, and this helps us stay short to the baseball, and then we'll be able to be long through the baseball. Also with this, the upper body has to work, of course, with the lower body. And to initiate the swing, the first thing that's going to happen after we stride, and go ahead and stride, Coach, is that we're going to have a very aggressive back knee and back hip. Okay, and so that motion right there, an aggressive back knee and back hip, is going to allow us to pull the bat through the strike zone. As the shoulders rotate, we're going to level out our swing and then be able to stay long through the baseball. A common flaw that we see with the swing path is going to start on the bottom half of the player, and that is when they get no or a very slow back hip turn, and this is what we see a lot of times with youth players. Okay, so a lot of times we see a big flaw with young hitters is they get no back hip turn and their back foot stays on the ground. To correct this, we use inside front toss, and this is how it looks. And the emphasis we're telling our players is to have an aggressive back hip, and I'm going to toss it to the inside part of the plate. Notice that his back foot comes off the ground, he gets a complete turn. That was excellent. Here we go. Okay, another flaw that we see with the swing path is when a young player will bar his front arm and allow his hands to move away from his body, creating a long swing at the beginning, which then ends up being short on the back end. Remember, the correct swing path is going to be short to and then long through. This is what we see a lot of times. Here's the flaw that we see a lot of times with young hitters. They stride and the front arm will bar and move away from their body. And of course, that's not what we want. We want this front arm to stay bent and then pull forward. So to correct this, we can do a couple things. One, we'll use a tee and we'll put it on the inside half of the plate. And anytime that we hit it on the inside half, the tee is going to be a little bit further in front of the plate. And what we're going to do is get this player, encourage him to hit the ball up the middle and not pull it. To do that, he's going to have to pull his hands straight towards the baseball and keep this front arm bent. This is how it looks. Okay. Okay, again, with the casting of the hands or the barring of the front arm, to prevent that, one drill that we could use with players is to simply put the tee against the net, approximately 12 inches away from the net, and have the players hit the ball stride and then hit the ball to the other end of the cage. If they're hitting the net as they hit this, they know that their hands are casting away from their body. So the focus is to really keep their hands close to their body, keep that front arm bent, and then hit the ball down the line. This is what it looks like. Nice. Another drill to keep our swing short too is to put the ball on a tee with the net back here behind us. This is going to reinforce the idea is that we have to pull our hands forward and not cast our hands or drop our barrel back. That's another common flaw we see with young hitters. So this drill here, the net back behind the hitter's back foot about 6 inches, and then he puts the tee up here, he's going to hit the ball to the other side. Okay, this is how it looks. Okay, another common flaw we see with the swing approach is when the back shoulder and the hands drop as the player begins to swing. This is what we see a lot of times with youth hitters. They stride, they go to hit, back shoulder drops, hands drop. And to prevent that, what we want to do, a couple of drills. One is a high tee drill. Let's move over this way a little bit. And this is a strike in Little League. This ball is in the strike zone, but more importantly for this drill, it's going to force the player to pull his hands forward and to not drop his hands or back shoulder as he goes to swing. And he's trying to hit a line drive up the middle. This is how it looks. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, as much as possible, we want to incorporate pitches in our drills, pitches that are coming towards the hitters and not simply work on tees. So again, to force the hands to come forward and to not drop the back shoulder and hands, we're going to do a drill called high front toss, and it looks like this. I'm simply going to toss it high into the strike zone, and he's going to work on pulling his hands forward. All right, we can both do better. One more, Bick. That's pretty good. All right, another common flaw we oftentimes see with the swing path is, again, a lower body problem. And the lower body problem is that a lot of young hitters will stride open, as we talked about. As they go to swing, everything is flying open. The front shoulder will fly open, the knee opens up, and it's just really hard to hit with power from this position. So what we want to do for our drill is we can start off by putting the tee on the outside half of the plate, back a little bit, and now what we're going to have the player do is stride, and we're going to watch to make sure that he stays closed, front shoulder, front knee. He wants to stay on the baseball and hit it that way. And this is what it looks like. Adding to the drill of trying to keep the front side closed, front knee, front shoulder, front hip closed as we go to hit, we use this drill right here. I'm going to front toss the ball to the inside part of the plate, and Chris is going to hit it. But occasionally I will fake it. And if I fake it, the hitter has to hit that pitch to the opposite field. This is how it works. Again, this forces the player to keep his front side closed. Here's how it looks. Ready? Good. Put another ball on there. We'll do another one. I'll throw it to the inside. Real nice. Okay. One very useful drill to teach hitting and good mechanics of hitting is what we call target hitting, and to give our players an opportunity to hit long towards targets, either from a pitcher throwing to them or off tees. So in this drill, and this is going to reinforce good mechanics and a good swing path of being short to and long through, Chris is simply going to try to hit the ball to the other side of the cage at that target. This is how it looks. Pretty good. Yeah, do another one. Very nice. Okay, the next phase of hitting is going to be a weight shift with an aggressive backside rotation to contact point. So far, we've put our players in a good position to hit with a sound foundation in stance and setup. Then we talked about a load with a stride to a power position, followed by our swing path, which is short to and then long through. Now what we want to do is, as our bat moves into contact position, we're going to have a slight weight shift forward to a firm front leg, and this is how it looks. Okay, there's a lot that has been said recently about rotational hitting or linear hitting, and hitters actually use both to hit. There's a little bit of a weight shift, and there's an aggressive rotation on the backside. It's impossible to hit all linear or all rotational. So there is weight shift and there is rotation in the swing. And let's illustrate what it looks like in slow motion. The player strides, and then he rotates, and there's a weight shift forward to a firm front leg as he gets to contact position right here. Notice that in contact position, he's in a very strong position to hit. Top hand's to the sky, bottom hand is to the ground. We're going to rewind, and we're going to show it again. It is a weight shift with an aggressive rotation on the back side. It's real important to point out that on this aggressive rotation, this back heel has come off the ground. Okay, one drill we're going to use to teach our players to get to a good, strong contact position with weight shift is to put a heavy ball. We have a deflated soccer ball here, and we put it on top of a cone right here. You could also use tees to do this. And simply, we're going to have our player stride and then make contact with this ball in a strong position. A player will quickly feel that if he's not making, go ahead and make contact extended. A player will feel if he is too far extended with his arms away from his body that that's not a strong position. So a little bit heavier ball is going to reinforce him immediately to pull his hands closer to his body and be in a strong position right here to make contact. This is how it looks. So a common flaw that we see with our hitters when they go to make contact is they extend their arms away from their body completely to make contact. This is a long swing and it's not as strong. So the flaw is this. Their arms move away from their body, and they're not as strong with completely extended as they are if they are bent, and that's a much stronger position right there. So that's the position we want to get them into. Okay, another major flaw that we see with weight shift and contact position is a player staying on his backside and not having any weight shift forward. It'll look like this a lot of times, where the player collapses on the backside and just spins around his backside. Okay? Whereas we want some weight shift going forward, and so the drill we use to teach some weight shift to a firm front side, and remember we have weight shift and then hard rotation. We simply put the tee a little bit further forward, and this is going to, and the player is going to strive to hit the ball up the middle. This is going to force the player to have some weight shift. Okay, and just as we talked about in phase 3 of our hitting, to reinforce good contact positions, target hitting, long target hitting out into a field or long in a cage is a great way to reinforce good contact positions. Now we're going to talk about extension and finish. So far we've talked about putting our players in a good position to hit. We've talked about loading our weight and striding to a balanced position. We've talked about our swing path is short to but then long through. We talked about weight shift and an aggressive back hip turn to contact position. And now we're going to talk about extension and finish. And what this really means is hitting through the baseball. Always remember that our swing path is short to and long through. What oftentimes happens with young players is they become long at first, which makes them be very short at the end. In other words, they can't extend and finish because they're long on the front side of their swing. So we keep a short swing to the baseball, and then we're going to try to hit through the baseball. And in slow motion, Chris is going to demonstrate. We'll get to our contact position, and then he's going to try to extend along the bat path, the plane of the pitch, as long as he can, keeping this hand from rolling over as long as he can, and then rolling over high on most pitches. Okay, so one drill that we're going to do, well, here's the flaw that we see a lot of times, is that a player simply rolls his wrist over on contact and beats the ball into the ground. This is the flaw that we see. Top hand came right over the baseball. So to correct this, what we're simply going to do is try to hit through the baseball again. Target hitting, hitting long through the baseball. Okay? Another flaw that we see with young hitters is they have very poor balance when they finish their swing. So one drill that we're going to do is simply have them hit the ball off the tee, and then they're going to have to hold their balance after they swing for 3 seconds, and they'll count out loud.
1, 2, 3.
Okay? Again, we don't want our hands to roll at contact. We want to try to keep our hands, that bottom hand to the sky as long as we can, and then roll over late. So this is what the rollover looks like in slow motion. The player gets here, and then we'll begin to roll over the ball, and that generally, because it causes the bat to go up a little bit as he rolls, the ball is just, it becomes a two-hopper to the pitcher, to the shortstop. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you find that these videos are helpful to you and your players, and I hope you have a successful season. Feel free to call on us anytime to help out. We'll be glad to do it.